Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Hello, PR Maven Nation. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, episode number 145, presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the Marshall Plan 65-Step Strategic Process. For those of you new to the show, I'm your host, Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I want to welcome you, and I want to welcome our guest, who I'm very happy to have with me here today, Phil Harriman. Thanks,
Hi,
Phil.
Thanks for having me. What a treat.
It is a treat. It's nice to be here like online together, although my preference is always to be in person.
Me too.
I look forward to seeing you again in person.
Yes.
Especially now that the pandemic has kind of wound down and we can get out and see people in person again.
I can't wait for Independence Day. It's going to be quite a celebration, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I look forward to that too. So for over 40 years, hard to believe, but 40 years, Phil Harriman has worked with hundreds of family-held and nonprofit businesses in the areas of retirement planning, business continuation planning, and estate planning. He started his career with Maine Governor James B. Longley's insurance agency in 1977. And I remember that too, because I actually was volunteering in the state legislature at that time while I was in high school. So I remember James Longley, when in Augusta. So I didn't know you were there too, Phil. In 1983, Phil became a founding partner of LaBelle and Harriman, now one of the largest retirement and business succession planning firms in New England. His community service includes serving on numerous boards, including chairperson of Make-A-Wish Maine and a trustee of Hudson University. Phil's civic involvement includes serving 4 terms in the Maine State Senate. Phil also delivers political analysis for the NBC television network in his home state of Maine. And of course, it was because of Phil that we did a show actually on Make-A-Wish Maine just a few weeks ago with Katie Vickery, and that was just fantastic.
Thank you for doing that. What a great organization Make-A-Wish is.
Yeah, and Katie is a great leader. She just, she was a wonderful guest. So Phil, tell us about your career and how you got into it in the first place.
Well, again, I'm honored that I could be part of the PR Maven podcast. Thank you again for having me. Based on the dates that you shared with your audience that I started in the business, I won't go through my entire career. I'll summarize it by saying when I graduated from Hudson University, my dream at that point was to become the 3rd generation to run our family's supermarket business. We had several locations, and I dreamed of succeeding my grandfather, who transferred the business to my father and my uncle. And I was so excited to become the 3rd generation to run the business. And, life happens sometimes. My dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and I was not prepared to run several supermarkets, and the business was put up for sale. And literally a year from graduating from college, I was looking for a new dream. And our family had used Sumner Bernstein of Bernstein Shore, one of the long-standing large law firms here in Maine. And Sumner Bernstein introduced me to Governor Longley's firm. And I started in the financial services business back when, again, this is going to tell my age, we had a touch tone phone and the yellow pages to look for potential clients. And back then, the stockbrokers and the bankers and the insurance people were all in different silos, so to speak, primarily promoting products that were proprietary to whoever was the manufacturer. And it just didn't seem right to me, Nancy, that every client financial challenge or problem had a XYZ company solution. And so Mike LaBelle and I, back in 1983, decided that we were going to do things differently. We weren't going to represent manufacturers of financial instruments. We were going to represent the client. And so we terminated our relationship, started LaBelle and Harriman, and all of our competitors. You'll be familiar with this, Nancy. There's a very famous part of the city of Portland called the Old Port. And if you walk down the streets of the Old Port, you'd see every brand name institution with its shingle out the door. And they predicted that we had just cut our own throats and that we were going to be out of business in no time. And 43 years later, they're all gone, and I'm proud to say we're still here doing better than ever.
Well, you have a lot of notoriety in the state of Maine because you have built your personal brand, which is actually one of the topics that we like to talk about on the PR Maven podcast. So congratulations for building your personal brand as well as your agency's brand. And you mentioned the Old Port. I mean, where I am right now, I'm on Middle Street.
Are you? I had an office at 121 Middle Street. Are you near there?
I'm at 15 Middle Street. But
okay.
It's so funny because I was just talking with a young man this morning who lived at 121 Middle Street. It must be some kind of housing now.
Yeah, they converted it into some very nice private housing. It at one time had a restaurant known as Carber's on the first floor, and then
I remember that.
Second and third floors were law firms and accounting firms and our financial planning firm.
Well, that's great. Well, I can tell that people would trust you, and I mean people have to be able to trust someone who's advising on such an important topic. And of course, I'm sure it's more authentic because you really lived it. I mean, you thought you were going to take over your family business and then it vanished. And I can see how that, you have a real heart-driven mission to help people.
I do. I've had the honor of working literally with hundreds of family businesses throughout New England and beyond. And you're right. I grew up listening to my elders, so to speak, talk about various challenges of running a business. And one day it was about finance, and the next day it was about inventory, and the next day it was about advertising, and then human resources. And I thought, what a great skill set that I could offer to potential clients to truly understand what their day was like. They go from CFO to janitor in a heartbeat. And I dedicated myself to working with primarily family-held businesses and nonprofits and helping them prepare for the future, whether it was their retirement or their sale or succession of their family business. And I love it even more today. There are 10,000 people, Nancy, 10,000 people every day in America waking up to their 60th birthday. And that's a time in most people's lives where they realize more days are behind them than are in front of them. They think about, what's my life been worth? Will my grandchildren or great-grandchildren even know who I am? It's a time in their life where they realize that they've worked so hard to build something up, and they really don't want to see it fall apart in the end. And thank you for your kind words about trustworthiness, because I can't do my job unless you feel that you can tell me what I need to know in a confidential way, knowing that there are no hot specials of the week, and that my recommendations to help you in your business will stand the scrutiny of your attorney and your accountant and other trusted advisors. And there's never been a time where more people need this sort of guidance. And I describe it as helping people align their heads, their hearts, and their stomachs. And when people are aligned logistically, emotionally, and their instincts are all lined up, they can make and execute and implement life-defining decisions.
Well, there's so much I want to react to. First of all, you obviously still feel the same passion, maybe even more, for what you do. And I am exactly the same way. I just celebrated 30 years of my business
Oh,
in April.
congratulations.
And I'm like, why would I want to stop? I love this so much. And, I like you, I've done it so long. I know how to do it. And I really can help people. And it's like, there's no way I would want to stop doing this. I also have children I have 2 sons who are in their 20s. They watched me grow my business because I started the business around the same time as I had them. And neither of them have any interest at all in doing what I do because they saw how all absorbing it was.
Mm-hmm.
They saw me on the phone, morning, noon, and night, and emails and whatever else. And I remember Craig, who's now 28, like pulling on my shirt, "Mama, no more phone, no more phone." And so they both like working for other people. But also, you said no hot specials. And if you had stayed in the grocery business, you would have hot specials.
You'd have to come up with one every week.
But yeah, I mean, you probably are very steady. You offer you probably don't offer a package even. It's just like you create a package based on what the client needs. And I think that's very comforting to a client.
Well, I think that's probably similar to your profession as it is to mine, that everybody has got a unique story, and it's their story. And it's not my place to judge their story or to tell them how the story should end, but rather to make sure I fully understand, back to my head-heart analogy. So often business owners turn to their accountant or their attorney, and there's a good tax solution or a good legal solution, but sometimes it just doesn't feel right. And so they either abandon the project or they find themselves looking through the rearview mirror, wishing they had done it differently. And I think what makes me unique is that I work with attorneys and accountants in my work. But first, I want the story. Then we'll go do math, and then we'll go do law. And to me, it's like putting together a puzzle on a foggy day, right? You empty the pieces on the table and you turn them all upside, and you find the straight edges and the corner pieces and the clusters of colors. But the most important piece of the puzzle is the big picture on the box. And that I want to know what the big picture on the box is. Then we'll start putting financial and legal and other pieces of the puzzle together. I
like that very much. And you said you have to align your head, your heart, your stomach. I would add the 4th piece as your checkbook. Because
right. Yeah.
I mean, if there's money in the bank, there is a certain amount of comfort and security with that. But if you're starting with and I actually just submitted an article to Forbes.com about having a bank account of goodwill. And I talk about them in public relations. Well, if you have a strong reputation and you have a positive bank balance of goodwill, if you do something that's kind of a little bad, you can withstand a withdrawal in that bank account and you can recover. But if you start with a negative bank account of goodwill and you're already not very well thought of, and then you do something bad, you might as well move out of state.
Go find a new career.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Change your name in these days, in this day of search engine optimization. So, Phil, you are known for being able to help families and businesses solve financial and emotional challenges. How do you navigate through those family, business, and money issues?
That's a fabulous question, because that is the secret to success. And what I have found is that in all family businesses, whether they're worth $1 billion or $1 million or 100,000, there's a lot of similarities. And the similarities can range from the elephant in the room to the hidden agenda, to the night shift, as I describe it, right? You go home from work and your partner is giving you yet another perspective and opinion as to how things should unfold. And What I do, I think, uniquely well is that I create a safe space for the individuals, and I meet one-on-one and understand, not judge, but understand what those priorities are and where the pinch points are and where is the baggage and the emotional history, and understanding all of those things is the most important piece, because that will guide you to how you can give advice when everybody is together in the same room around the same table. And everybody's got a different perspective, and that's what makes this kaleidoscope of family businesses so unique, and for me professionally rewarding, because there are solutions. There's a solution to all of these challenges. But if you don't have the knowledge and you don't have the trust of the client to tell you what you need to know, you can't give them good advice. And so for me, it is uncovering those perspectives and make sure that people know that their confidence is assured, that these conversations won't be the basis for a revisit to painful times in the past or lost opportunities of today, but rather we are where we are, and we're going to go forward, and we're going to do our best to make sure that everybody gets what they need and hopefully what they want.
Right. And there are so many different options for a business, whether it's an ESOP or a merger or an acquisition, or sometimes, I don't know, is sometimes the best thing just to close the door and say it was a good run?
Yeah, hopefully that's not the ultimate, but I do work with a fair amount of family businesses, Nancy, where the next generation is in a position of leadership, and they're not content personally or professionally. And when you hear their story, it was, well, you know, I did this because my last name is so and so, and that's what expected. That was what was expected of me. And they wake up and they're 45 or 55 years old, and they got a mortgage and college tuition payments, and they're not fulfilled because they didn't follow their passion. Yeah. But when you talk to their parents, that's the last thing they want them to do. And so making sure that people are in the right place doing the thing that brings them joy, regardless of the money, will prevent the ultimate decision to close the door.
Right. And that brings the next question. Family businesses are indeed rife with issues. And is there ever a time that it would be best for a family to sell the family business in order to preserve the family unit?
Yes. Yeah. More and more each day. And what I help clients think through is the strategy to help the next generation to run the family business. And if so, let me go and find out that this is really what they want to do. And if so, let's manage the business day to day with that goal in mind. If the family business is not going to go on to the next generation, that's okay. Let's manage the business so that it becomes more and more attractive to an outside buyer, because ultimately when you decide to transition, whether it's to the next generation or to an outside new owner, once you kind of reach consensus on the price, from there on, particularly if it's going to be sold to an outsider, they begin their due diligence, which is making sure there aren't, cobwebs and skeletons in the closet and so forth. And that's a necessary part to do a due diligence. But once that process starts, the only way the price goes is down. It doesn't go up. And so making sure that everybody, again, is aligned so that if we're going to sell it internally to the next generation, that's a very different strategy of how to run the business from today forward than if the business is going to be prepared to be sold to an outsider where we want the most attractive value possible.
I can see that. Absolutely. And whoever is going to be taking the reins needs to be groomed to do so.
Right,
so it
right.
needs to be identified.
Right. And the business from a human resource, technology, financial, all of those things will take you in a different path if the business is going to be sold to the outside versus carried on from the inside.
Right. I think banks do this particularly well as far as I mean, I work with a bank that grooms its successors for quite a long time, maybe like even 15 years before they take over. And I think that's probably a good thing to do.
Having those conversations with the next generation early on is so important, because this is typically the male business owner has a tendency to keep all of these things close to the vest. They probably built it from nothing, and it's part of who they are and who they are becoming. Meanwhile, the next generation is not in the know. They're not sure which way dad is going to make decisions. And so the more that communication can be opened and transparent, the more success the business will have and the family outside of business will have with each other.
Right. And in my mind, it's more important to maintain family harmony and unity than to run a business. The business should serve the family, not the other way around.
Right.
Phil, how have you used public relations and media relations to get the word out about what you do? I feel like this is something you've done very well.
Well, I probably could have done a lot better, frankly. It's hard to build a marketing strategy around clients that are, very confidential. You can't put out an ad or a media piece that says LaBelle & Harriman is now the advisor to XYZ conglomerate. So our strategy has been more about building individual relationships, using the opportunity to share with others, whether it's accounting firms or chambers of commerce or networking groups, to join in conversations about the work that we do, not based on who we are and how long we've been around, but rather talking about on a no-name basis some of the interesting experiences we've had. And surprisingly, Nancy, and you see this more in your business than I do, those ideas that you are able to share with a potential client, kind of creates an aha moment. And that leads to, well, how do you go about doing that?
Right.
and thus hopefully begins the beginning of a very long-term relationship.
Well, I wrote a book actually at the beginning of the pandemic called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand. And it was essentially all about how, if the larger your network of personal and professional connections, the larger the audience or platform that you'll have, and the larger your brand will be. And so actually, that's what I was going to talk about right now, because we're going to take a break, and people who are listening can go to prmaven.com/giveaway and download a free copy of that book, Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand. So there we go. That was a perfect segue.
Awesome.
So we're going to take a short break now. We'll be back with more from Phil Harriman in just a moment.
Do you want to grow your client or customer base? Perhaps increase brand awareness? Maybe tell your unique story more effectively? Of course you do. But you may be worried that you don't have enough expertise to make that happen. Well, no worries, PR Maven Nation. Let the PR Maven herself, Nancy Marshall, show you how easy it is to get your message across effectively using a powerful yet simple tool, a message map. Nancy's training is often called informative and constructive, well-designed and impactful, with a perfect blend of theory and real-life experience. You will leverage Nancy's expertise to create your own message map when you register for this comprehensive online video training course, which is broken down into 4 easy-to-understand modules. Normally, this course is priced at $147, but for listeners of the PR Maven podcast, that's you, PR Maven Nation, it's only $29 when you enter the code word podcast during enrollment. It even includes a workbook and bonus content to guide you through the process. So go to prmaven.com and click on the Message Map Mastery course to enroll today. Remember, enter the word podcast during enrollment for a special discounted price of $29.
Welcome back, and it's nice to be here with Phil Harriman. And Phil, I'd love to show you sometime about that message mapping technique, because I think it could be really helpful to people who are selling a business to explain it not only to their own family or their employees, but also to the public. So
I thank you. I would welcome that.
So Phil, you served on the Yarmouth Town Council and 4 terms in the Maine Senate. What was that like? A lot of work.
Well, first, it was a tremendous honor to serve in public office. I wish more and more people could experience what that's like. I wish more people in the legislature and in Congress had run a business so they would know what that is like. I found serving at the local level, I grew up in Yarmouth, Maine. I still live there, and serving on the town council was an experience where one item on the agenda was sanitation, recycling issues, and the next one was spending tens of millions of dollars on public buildings and police and sidewalks and on and on and on I could go. And that experience was every time you met, people could come and look you in the eye and listen to the debate, offer their public opinion, and then react to how you vote. It is truly government that is closest to the people. When I had the honor of being elected to the Maine Senate, I realized that not only was I responsible for the constituents who elected me, I also had an obligation to my entire state. And the legislative process, unlike municipal government, where I served with 6 other people, in the legislature, I served with 185 other people, 151 in the Maine House and 35 in the Maine Senate. And that process, as you know from your time, there is very complicated, very messy. And then there's another layer put on top of it, which is everything is done by parliamentary procedure. So if you don't understand the language of parliamentary procedure, you cannot be an effective legislator. And I think, I'm guessing, but I wouldn't be surprised if when I was in the Senate, I was there 4 terms, that I probably wrestled with 10 to 12,000 great new ideas to run our lives called pieces of legislation. And probably 80 to 85% of all of the bills that work their way through the Maine House and Senate are resolved without acrimony, but that doesn't make for good news stories. So the public tends to hear about the 10 or 15% of those pieces of legislation that are complicated or controversial. And it was in that arena where I had to deal with things coming at me, literally walking down the hallway from the House and Senate to the governor's office. You would cross paths with people pushing, persuading, begging for votes, right, on various issues, and every step was a different person and a different issue. And somehow you had to keep up to speed with all of those issues, because you were going to read about it in the newspaper, or you were going to see it on the television or hear it on the radio. And that, to me, was the most challenging part, was making sure that I was well informed on the issues, that I was clear in my position, and then being able to understand how the constituents who would hear it, see it, or read it, how I needed to be prepared to respond to their either criticisms or compliments.
Well, that shows that you're forward thinking, because I can tell that, legislation is typically highly complex. And then people will throw other things into legislation to serve their own purposes. And then the news media, of course, wants to boil all of this down into simple sound bites or simple messages,
right,
like what we do in our message mapping.
Right.
So taking a highly complex piece of legislation that has a lot of different aspects to it, and then communicating it through, especially broadcast media, is really challenging. And I know that oftentimes the broadcast media will pick up the most controversial aspect of that, because that seems the most newsworthy and will draw the most attention. Their audience.
Absolutely right. And they've got maybe 2 minutes on television and, maybe half a page in the news story. And they're trying to present to the readers the most important pieces of what could be bills that are, 10, 20 pages long.
Right. Well, I'm sure that experience has helped to serve you in your primary business of serving family-owned businesses. And how do you advise family-owned businesses when they're branding and promoting themselves?
Wow, another great question. I would say what I try to do is to help clients communicate either to a legislator or a customer or a potential new market to begin with why. Why do
like Simon Sinek's
book? Yes. Why? Tell us why you do this, because if people don't understand what your passion in is, what you are good at, and what you're proud of, and what needs you satisfy, they really aren't going to be as eager to engage with you, regardless of your location or your product. So I encourage clients to explain why they are so passionate about what they do. And when people who have the same passion or are curious about the same product, they're going to come find you because you stand out as being proud of why you do what you do.
Yeah, it's funny. Our former governor and current U.S. Senator Angus King once told me that enthusiasm trumps intelligence every time.
That's true. It is. Yeah.
And, people want you to feel enthusiastic about them, essentially.
Right.
For them to hire you.
Well, I feel that if people are going to share with me their most sensitive issues about their family and business and money, and they're going to entrust me with helping them build that dream to reality and entrust me with handling their finances, your passion and your commitment and your professionalism should speak for itself just in the way that you communicate with them.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. So you can tell very easily how somebody approaches their business by how they describe it.
I open the door and take 2 steps into a potential client's business, and I can tell almost immediately from the tone of voice of the receptionist to the atmosphere in the workplace what type of potential business they are.
Yeah, of course, in today's world, now you have to look at their website and their social media to be able to tell. But I think that all of those things online tell a story as well.
They do, but that's the high tech part. People, I think, more and more want the high touch to come along with it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they have to be in alignment. That's going back to that head and heart and stomach piece.
And checkbook.
Yeah, checkbook, right. So your firm has in place 2nd and 3rd generation future leadership. How have you managed to accomplish that?
I would say without hesitation, my proudest professional achievement is not only starting this firm with my partner, Mike LaBelle, to assuring my clients who have entrusted us with their affairs for 30 or 40 years that there is already a team of people in place who understand their story and are already up to speed on the plans that they have made with us. And to do that, I'm exceptionally proud of the fact that our firm is now run by 4 very capable women. And one, I'll just use first names. Lori has been with us for more than 30 years. Rebecca, more than 20 years. Michelle, almost 20 years. And Jennifer has been with us for almost 15 years. And so to attract the caliber of professional people that we have and that they have decided to make their career here with LaBelle and Harriman is so rewarding. And I'm very proud of the fact that the firm is going to carry on long after my days are done. And there's yet another generation behind them of young professionals who are in their late 20s, early 30s, who have already dedicated themselves to this, not only this profession, but they've been with us for 5 years or more.
Well, that's a sign of strong leadership. So you should feel very proud of that.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. So is there a book, an app, or a website that you have found helpful personally and professionally, and why?
Oh, so many. I have found that the readings of history of people who have accomplished things, whether they're an athlete or a politician or an inventor, inspires me today, because I've learned that reading about people, and not just because of who they've become, but rather understanding how difficult it was to become that book-worthy person. And I've learned that success in life is uphill. Anything that you want to accomplish is not a downhill ski. It's a climb the mountain every single day. I find that, frankly, the invention of the cell phone was probably the most remarkable communication device, at least for me, to network with people and be introduced to potential clients. You used to have to dial the touch-tone phone or drop coins in a telephone pay booth.
It's hard to believe, I know.
Right. And first you had to get through the person who answered the phone, and then you had to get through the secretary to the person that you wanted to talk to. Today, all those walls have come down. You can very easily have the opportunity to reach directly out to someone who you would like to have a business or a personal relationship with.
Right, or both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember working, I'm holding up my phone here. I remember working with US Cellular back in the late 90s, when we had bag phones. Remember those bag phones?
Yeah, and it's about the size of 2 bricks, right? It came with a magnet that you put on your car, and it took both hands and your foot.
And it was also very expensive to make a call. Yeah, so I mean, one call could end up costing you $50 or $60 without you even knowing it. Right. So I remember US Cellular at that time saying that these devices are going to change our lives, and boy, have they. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would rather lose my wallet than lose my cell phone.
Well, I think it's astonishing that there's more computing power technology in a greeting card that opens up and sings a song or what have you than there was that put a man on the moon. And if you think of this, that today, and you can go anywhere on the planet and slide a plastic card into a device and find out what your bank balance is and withdraw cash in any international currency in less than 2 minutes.
I know.
So if you look back and see where we've been and where we are today, how exciting is it to think about where we're going to be in another generation?
Yeah, we need to embrace the technology. I know, in my early days, I worked at Sugarloaf in public relations and marketing, and my boss at the time, Chip Carey, used to always be saying to me, you got to stay on top of this technology. It's really going to have a great impact on communications. And I did take it to heart. And when he was saying that to me, we were really just talking about databases, not even computers. I mean, he taught me, how to use DBase 3+ to create a database. Yeah. But, that's how our marketing database was very detailed. So we could call up, all the people from Connecticut who are interested in Nordic skiing, or people from Massachusetts interested in golf, or, all the different combinations. And then when social media and websites came along, he was like, you got to stay on top of this. And it was just a very good lesson, because I find now that especially people who are nearing the end of their career, if they do check out of technology and say, oh, that's for young people, or, I'm not going to do that social media stuff, or that's not, you might as well just totally retire then, because you're out of it. If you're not at least trying. Now, it's impossible to know everything about every app or every social platform, but you've got to make an effort to learn it. Even like TikTok, I have a TikTok account. I don't post on it, but I think it's important, or Snapchat, or you just have to kind of have an idea of what these things are, because there are different ways to connect people and communicate.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think it's also fair to say that these technology tools also creates a level playing field. It doesn't matter whether you are JP Morgan or LaBelle and Harriman, you can be presented to the public through social media as a competent source of financial information.
I agree absolutely. And using, again, building your personal brand by creating thought leadership content and putting it out there. Yes, you and I can be every bit as impactful as the President of the United States or whoever. Just have to keep working at it. Well, Phil, this has been fantastic. If people want to connect with you, how should they follow up?
Oh, thank you. You are the PR Maven. Thank you. You can reach me at P Harriman at LaBelle. That's spelled LEBEL. Harriman.com. LaBelle is the same, forward and backwards. LEBEL. P Harriman.
Oh, that's cool. That's a totally cool thing. Well, Phil, this has been really enjoyable, and I want to thank you for your time. I know we had one false start a few weeks ago, and I'm glad that we were able to reschedule.
And I want to, in front of all of your audience, apologize. I had a technology upgrade that didn't synchronize with my phone, and I do apologize to you and your audience, and I'm so grateful that you found a way to bring me back another time. And this has been awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, and hopefully everybody on PR Maven Nation enjoys it too. And I look forward to staying in touch and getting together with you in person.
I can't wait. All the best to you, Nancy.
Thanks. You too, Phil. Have a great day.
Thanks.
And have a great day, PR Maven Nation. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven Podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the skills and games section to find and enable the PR Maven Podcast Flash Briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.